In Matthew 6, Jesus delivers a powerful message urging his followers not to succumb to worry and anxiety about the basic necessities of life. He emphasizes the futility of fretting over what to eat, drink, or wear, questioning the value of such concerns in the grand scheme of things. Who among you, he asks, can add 1 hour to your life by worrying? This rhetorical question challenges his listeners to reconsider their priorities and trust in a higher power. Jesus attributes worry to a lack of faith, implying that those who worry are not fully trusting in God's provision and care. Instead of dwelling on material needs, he advises his followers to prioritize seeking God's kingdom and righteousness. This shift in focus, Jesus promises, will lead to the fulfillment of their needs. He assures them that if they prioritize spiritual matters, God will take care of their physical needs as well. Moreover, Jesus cautions against the futile practice of worrying about tomorrow. He emphasizes living in the present moment and dealing with each day's challenges as they come, rather than becoming preoccupied with an uncertain future. By entrusting their concerns to God and focusing on the present, Jesus suggests his followers can experience peace and freedom from anxiety. The passage from Philippians 4 echoes this sentiment, urging believers to replace worry with prayer, petition, and thanksgiving. By bringing their needs and concerns before God in prayer with an attitude of gratitude, they can experience a profound sense of peace, a peace that surpasses human understanding. This peace, Paul assures, will act as a guard for their hearts and minds, protecting them from the destructive influence of worry and anxiety. In essence, both passages convey a powerful message of trust, surrender, and faith in God's provision. They invite believers to release their anxieties and concerns, knowing that God cares for them and will provide for their needs. Through prayer, gratitude, and a focus on spiritual priorities, believers can experience a deep and abiding peace in the midst of life's challenges. Jesus' repeated and straightforward admonition, "Don't worry," carries a profound message that extends beyond mere restriction. It reflects a deeper wisdom and guidance for living. His words aren't meant to stifle us or limit our experiences, but rather to free us from the burdensome weight of unnecessary worry. In urging us not to worry, Jesus invites us to trust in a divine providence that transcends our understanding. The essence of Jesus' message lies in surrendering to the flow of life and its inevitable uncertainties. He acknowledges that life unfolds in its own time and manner, beyond our control or manipulation. By advising against worry, Jesus highlights the futility of trying to micromanage the intricate details of existence. Instead, he encourages us to embrace the present moment, accepting it as it comes. Indeed, it's a harsh reality that many of us often find ourselves ensnared in the complexities of our worries and troubles, losing sight of the comforting presence of our Heavenly Father. In the midst of life's challenges, we can become so consumed by our concerns that we forget the steadfast love and care of God, who stands ever ready to guide and support us. Jesus' directive to refrain from worrying serves as a crucial wake-up call, urging us to reawaken to our inherent connection with a compassionate and nurturing Creator. Through his teachings, Jesus reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles, but are intimately linked to a divine source of strength and solace. Despite our doubts and struggles, Jesus assures us that help is always within reach. All it takes is for us to recognize our need for assistance and to earnestly seek divine intervention. By surrendering our anxieties and placing our trust in God's unwavering ability to provide, we unlock the transformative power of faith. This act of surrender is not an admission of weakness, but a demonstration of our willingness to rely on a higher power. In entrusting our concerns to God, we open ourselves to experiencing a profound sense of peace and assurance, a peace that surpasses human understanding. Through faith, we discover that our Heavenly Father is not only willing but also capable of carrying us through life's trials and tribulations. In essence, Jesus' call to forsake worry is an invitation to embrace a deeper relationship with God, a relationship founded on trust, dependence, and unwavering faith. It's a reminder that even in our darkest moments, we are never alone, for God's loving presence surrounds us, ready to uplift and sustain us through every storm. Indeed, Jesus' directive not to worry is not merely a command for blind obedience, but rather an invitation to deepen our relationship with our Creator. It's a summons to release our grip on control and nurture a spirit of trust and surrender. Through this act of faith, we uncover a newfound sense of peace and assurance, knowing that we are never abandoned and divine assistance is always within reach. However, it's natural for worries and anxieties to persist despite this invitation. They linger, sometimes stubbornly, reminding us of our humanity and vulnerability. Yet, it's precisely in these moments that the essence of Jesus' teaching becomes most pertinent. It's a reminder that worry, while a natural inclination, should not dominate our lives or hinder our spiritual growth. Life unfolds in its own time and rhythm, and fretting over its uncertainties only serves to detract from the present moment. By dwelling on worries, we risk missing out on the beauty and blessings that surround us each day. Therefore, the key lies in embracing each moment with a sense of openness and trust, knowing that whatever challenges arise, we are not alone. This understanding forms the cornerstone of faith, a belief that transcends logic and reason. It's an acknowledgement of the divine presence that permeates every aspect of existence, offering solace and guidance in times of need. And while worries may persist, they do not define us. Instead, they serve as opportunities for growth and spiritual awakening. Ultimately, Jesus' message encourages us to shift our focus from worry to faith, from fear to trust. It's a call to surrender our burdens to a loving and compassionate Creator, knowing that in doing so, we find true liberation and peace. So, when worries arise, let us remember the profound truth embedded in Jesus' teachings, that divine help is always at hand, and we need only open our hearts to receive it. Planning ahead and making adjustments are indeed essential aspects of navigating life's journey. It's about learning to adapt to the ever-changing circumstances with the pace of life. And in this process, we can find solace in knowing that we don't have to go through it alone. When we align ourselves with God's plan and trust in His provision, we discover that He equips us with all the resources needed to overcome our challenges. It's not merely about giving us what we think we need, but providing us with everything necessary for our growth and well-being. Trusting in God means releasing the burden of trying to figure everything out on our own. It means relinquishing the need to control every aspect of our lives, and instead leaning on His wisdom and guidance. In doing so, we alleviate the pressure we often place on ourselves to solve every problem and change every circumstance. By surrendering to God's will and leaning on Him for support, we find freedom from the endless cycle of striving and struggling. We no longer have to exhaust ourselves trying to change things that have resisted our efforts countless times before. Instead, we can find peace in knowing that God's plan is greater than our own, and His timing is always perfect. So, as we journey through life, let us remember that we can trust in God's provision and guidance. Let us embrace each step with faith and confidence, knowing that He walks alongside us, ready to guide us through every challenge and triumph. Trusting in God's plan can indeed alleviate frustration, as it allows us to let go of the need to control every outcome. When we sincerely surrender our weaknesses and strengths to Him, we acknowledge His sovereignty over our lives. This act of surrender opens the door for God to work in our lives in ways that we may not have anticipated. As we relinquish our desire to possess what others have, we find freedom from jealousy and comparison. Instead of focusing on what we lack, we can embrace the blessings that God has bestowed upon us uniquely. Indeed, when we entrust our lives to God, we can rest assured that He is always working behind the scenes for our good. Even in the face of adversity, we can find comfort in knowing that God is our ultimate rescuer, coming to our aid precisely when we need Him most. In essence, surrendering to God's plan is not a sign of weakness but of strength. It is a recognition of His infinite wisdom and love, and it opens the door for His miraculous intervention in our lives. So, let us release our worries and fears into His capable hands, knowing that He is always faithful to fulfill His promises. God's promise to take care of us is a source of profound comfort and reassurance. When we find ourselves consumed by worries and anxieties, it's easy to become overwhelmed and lose sight of His presence in our lives. Yet, God assures us that we need not carry the weight of our concerns alone. Scripture reminds us to cast all our cares upon Him, for He cares deeply for us. This act of surrender involves entrusting our problems and worries into God's capable hands, confident that He will handle the outcome according to His perfect plan. Indeed, when we choose to release our burdens to God, we free ourselves from the grip of anxiety and fear. Instead of dwelling on the negative possibilities, we place our trust in God's ability to guide us through every trial and challenge. Faith and fear are intimately connected. Where there is faith, fear diminishes, and where fear prevails, faith wanes. By cultivating a deep trust in God's provision and sovereignty, we can overcome the grip of anxiety and experience the peace that surpasses all understanding. So, let us choose to entrust our worries to God, knowing that He is capable of handling everything that concerns us. As we release our fears and anxieties, we open ourselves to receive the abundant blessings of His love and care. You're absolutely right. Faith and anxiety exist on opposite ends of the spectrum, where the flourishing of one leads to the diminishing of the other. Anxiety can be viewed as a negative expression of faith in God, reflecting a lack of trust in His ability to handle our circumstances. It's a profound realization to understand that worrying won't change the outcome of any situation. As Jesus pointed out, we cannot add a single hour to our lives through worrying. This truth underscores the futility of allowing anxiety to consume our thoughts and energy. God's omniscience and wisdom offer us a source of comfort and reassurance. He sees and knows everything, including the future, and He holds the best solution to our problems. When we feel anxious, we're essentially expressing a fear that our desired outcome won't materialize. However, when we trust in God's wisdom and plan, we acknowledge that His way is ultimately the best, even if it differs from our own expectations. Trusting in God means believing that He will provide us with the resources we need at every step of the journey. It's a faith that allows us to surrender control and embrace His guidance, knowing that He can transform even the most challenging circumstances into something wonderful and beautiful. So, Instead of succumbing to anxiety, let us choose to place our trust in God's wisdom and provision. By doing so, we can experience a deep sense of peace and assurance, knowing that He is always working for our good, even in the midst of uncertainty. Having someone who loves us deeply, possesses great strength, and holds the best solution can significantly alleviate anxiety. When we recognize that we have such a source of support and guidance, it diminishes the grip of anxiety on our lives. Anxiety often thrives when we perceive it as a normal part of life, but it doesn't have to be that way. Understanding that we have access to a loving and powerful presence can shift our perspective and empower us to overcome anxiety. Knowing that we are not alone in facing life's challenges and uncertainties can bring a sense of comfort and reassurance. It reminds us that we don't have to bear our burdens alone, and that there is always hope for a better tomorrow. Ultimately, having someone who loves us unconditionally and has the best solution for our problems can transform our experience of anxiety. It allows us to face each day with confidence and trust, knowing that we are supported and cared for every step of the way.